Members, good afternoon. This is the third session in the afternoon. This is the session on housing. Welcome Secretary Ms. Winnie Ho and her team to the meeting. I now ask Ms. Ho to give us an opening speech, and then the members can ask questions. Members who would like to ask questions, please press the button to request to speak. Ms. Ho, please. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Housing is high on the current term government's agenda. Guided by the overarching principle of optimizing resources, we are fully committed to advancing housing initiatives and resolving housing issues effectively. We have identified sufficient land to meet our 10-year public housing supply target of 294,000 units, including light public housing LPH. The total supply over the next 5 years will reach about 196,000 units, an increase of more than 80% compared with the 5-year period when the current term government took office. As various public rental housing PRH and LPH projects are completed, applicants will be allocated adequate housing much faster, substantially easing their rental burden. For example, compared with living in subdivided units SDUs, households in LPH and transitional housing can save an average of $4,200 and $2,500 per month in rent, respectively, assisting 30,000 and 20,000 low-income families, respectively, over a 5-year period translates to over $10.6 billion in total rental savings. This provides tangible relief, allowing our most disadvantaged citizens to live in contentment. Currently, 7 LPH projects comprising around 9,650 units have been completed and are fully occupied. We expect another 20,150 LPH units to be completed in phases through 2026 and early 2027, keeping us firmly on track to deliver our target of 30,000 LPH units by 2027 and 28. As at the end of December 2025, the composite waiting time for subsidized rental housing stood at 5.1 years. This remains the lowest recorded waiting time since the first quarter of 2018, and we are making steady progress toward our target of reducing it to 4.5 years in 2026 and 27. With the growing supply of public housing, the government is well positioned to increase the supply of subsidized sales flats (SSF). The number of homeownership scheme flats put up for sale annually has gone up from roughly 4,000 a few years ago to about 9,000 today. This will further go up to an average of 12,000 units per year over the next 5 years, which is a marked increase in supply. To further enrich the housing ladder, the Hong Kong Housing Authority has continuously optimized SSF sales arrangements and alienation restrictions. Key measures include increasing the quota for the white form secondary market scheme, relaxing the alienation restriction period for new flats sold in the open market, and launching the Hong Kong HA's flat-for-flat scheme for elderly owners. Additionally, a pilot scheme has been introduced allowing eligible SSF owners, upon paying a concessionary fee, to let their flats with unpaid premiums to eligible white form applicants. Furthermore, the government is determined to resolve the chronic, pervasive, thorny issue of substandard SDUs in Hong Kong. The new basic housing unit regime was launched on the 1st of March this year, operating on the principle of registration first, enforcement later, and featuring a 48-month transitional period. This framework allows us to phase out substandard SDUs in an orderly manner. In just over a month, the response has been highly positive. We have received registration applications for over 5,219 SDUs across 1,284 residential units. Through targeted publicity and education initiatives, we'll continue to encourage more SDU owners to register early and undertake the necessary rectification works to comply with the new regime. Enforcement against the illegal letting of SDUs will commence in the second year of the regime, that is on the 1st of March 2027. The Housing Bureau will ensure these enforcement actions are pragmatic, reasonable, compassionate, and orderly. Our 6 district service teams are fully mobilized and are ready to provide immediate, comprehensive support to any affected tenants, ensuring that no SDU household is left homeless. Turning to the private sector, the supply of first-hand private residential properties is projected to remain high, with around 104,000 units expected over the next 3 to 4 years. The government will carefully manage the pace of supply, ensuring a continuous and stable release of land to meet the community's housing needs in a timely and orderly manner. I want to express my sincere gratitude to all members for their ongoing support of housing initiatives such as the Basic Housing Units Ordinance. I thank members for your generous support and your invaluable views. We'll continue to listen to members. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Ho. A total of 19 members have pressed the button to request to speak. 4 minutes each, questions and answers included. If members observe the time limit, we will be able to let all members ask questions. Ms. Kwok Fu-yong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on HB 033, 019, and 037. I thank the Housing Bureau's work in the past year, especially when it comes to helping young home buyers. A lot of concrete measures have been put in place. Regarding HB 033, I'd like to talk about the scheme of funding scheme to support transitional housing projects by NGOs. Government properties, schools, industrial buildings, these will be used as transitional housing. In the middle of March, NGOs were invited to take part in modifying a vacant school premises. I'd like to ask the administration, is there any figure regarding how many units can be modified? Has the administration compared these projects with the projects in the NT? Any advantage when it comes to cost? Regarding HB 019, as for light public housing unit, the operational costs range from $635 to $2,700. Category C tenants have been added. As of March, only one application has been received. I'd like to ask about the reason behind. Has it to do with publicity or application threshold? Thank you. Secretary, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Kwok, for her question. I'd like to talk about transitional housing. Regarding existing vacant properties such as vacant school premises, the cost effectiveness is good when it comes to modification. These school premises are left vacant. The cables, sewage pipes, they only require minor works. We're interested in these projects because of different reasons. Take the project in Altakok as an example. The location is actually very good. It is in the urban area. We are going to take forward the Basic Housing Units Ordinance. The projects in the urban area are highly popular, so we are going to make good use of the remaining subsidies. As long as the location is highly popular, we will continue to take forward these initiatives. As for the operational costs of light public housing, the costs vary from one project to another. Some school premises can only accommodate 130 to 150 units. There are playground, fire access. There is more space in some projects. Therefore, some of the operational costs might be higher in some projects. This will also lead to a difference in cost effectiveness. Regarding Category C tenant, we have received one application. The Basic Housing Unit Ordinance has come into effect for just 1 month. There is still some time for owners to prepare. They can register first, and then they can have a grace period of 3 years. We have Category C tenants right now, but I believe there will be more and more applications coming. Thank you.
Mr. Andrew Fan, HB 047, and that is building the light public housing by MIC. I have 3 questions. Apart from LPH, how many housing estates are built based on the MIC model? Would you expanding the scope of construction works to be used by MIC? Second question. In face of the surging prices in using MIC, will the administration consider allowing local workers to take part in the MIC construction so that workers can help in the assembly of the MIC modules and create more jobs for them? Would that be that's such an arrangement in building PRH estates? And as far as repair and maintenance is concerned, estates built on MICs would differ from the traditional way of construction. Will the government follow up on the relevant issue? Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. For the MIC modular integrated construction, when we first launched the approach, we did it because the construction workers population is aging and there is insufficient manpower, so that we can keep up the quality and the quantity of our construction works. We do have an advantage. We are one of the GBA cities, and we know that many factories are very good at providing MIC, and they can also introduce advanced technologies and robots in their industrial processes. So during the pandemic, we spent just say 4 months in building a hospital using MIC. So back then, when I assumed office, I know that there is a long queue for PRH. So we needed to leverage new construction approach to shorten the queue. So this does play its role in the construction of light public housing in PRH. Our target is that in the second 5-year period, half of the projects will be built by using MIC. And actually, we have already surpassed the target, and thanks to the construction team of the Housing Department. Now, on workers, when we first introduced MIC, we saw that we were short-handed in the construction industry, and we needed this new technology to keep up the construction volume. Now, after we introduced MIC, we found that we needed to upskill the workers. Now, lifting is a more complicated process, and now we are talking about requiring more skilled workers, especially in helping with transportation of the components back to Hong Kong. So we had to provide more training to the construction workers. As for repair and maintenance, MIC is no different from the traditional construction method. Actually, 2 decades ago, the kitchens and toilets in public housing estates were built based on MIC. So we do have a lot of repair and maintenance experience with regard to MIC. Mr. Ronik Chan, I'd like to follow up on reply 003 and 033. And that is also how to implement the basic housing unit regime. I know that the task force on tackling the issue of SDUs, the estimate is only $8.2 million. And they have 4 divisions: policy unit, administration unit, registration and recognition unit, and enforcement and prosecution unit. And I see that they should spend the most amount of the money in publicity, education, certification, enforcement, and law prosecution. But the paper is silent on how the $8.2 million will be used. So can the Secretary elaborate on this? Now, HB 003, now, for the prosecution unit, there will be 6 district service teams supporting the the tenants of affected SDUs, they will be assisted in identifying suitable accommodation in the private market. They will be relocated to, say, the transitional housing, light public housing, and also hostels for single persons and so on. So these are very important tasks. So what is the manpower of these 6 district service teams? Do we have enough colleagues in these teams? The 6 district service teams will be serving different districts, I presume. So would you be deploying different manpower, say, level in different districts? For districts where there are a lot of SDUs, they do have enough district service team members to help them. Thank you, Chair. Let me take the first question. As for the manpower deployment of the 6 district service teams, can I defer to the Deputy Secretary, Ms. Wong, to supplement? Mr. Chan referred to the amount. Now, as we take forward the BHU regime, we will be seeing some changes. In the first phase, we would focus on publicity. So on television, we have APIs, which are being frequently screened. And I hope that this will be remembered by members of the public. So please, SDU flat owners, make use of the first year to get registered. So we attach importance to publicity in this phase. So we want to let the flat owners know that it is not that difficult to get registered. Just all they need to do is to hand in a form. Now, after the first year, the flat owners who have not come forth to register and they are still letting their SDU out, we would then enforce the law, and the manpower on that side will increase. And then there are some flat owners who would like to get recognized. So the colleagues will have to vet the papers for recognition. So the relevant dedicated team will need more manpower. So we would be planning the relevant manpower as we take forward the regime. Now, as for the 6 district service teams, the approach is this. They cover areas where a lot of SDUs are found. Yiwa building in Changsha Wan, well, we learned earlier that there were many SDUs there. So we would be mobilizing other district service teams to help out. Ms. Wang, thank you, Chair. For the 6 district service teams, we invited the teams to join us through an open tender. For each team, there should be at least 1 full-time project officer and then 2 to 3 project assistants. And one of them has to be a registered social worker. And the teams are also required to mobilize volunteers to help out. So every team will come with 60 to 100 volunteers to do its work. In the next few years, we need to support the tenants apart from undertaking publicity. We believe that the planned manpower can cope. Like what the Secretary said, if a district needs extra support, we can mobilize service teams from other districts to help out. Mr. Scott Leung. Thank you, Chair. HB 05800101. First, on the BHU regulatory regime, I appreciate the Secretary and her team's efforts. The Secretary referred to the APIs, and I know that there will be mock-up units to be set up for reference by the flat owners. These are effective measures to enhance the flat owners' knowledge on how to get registered and how to ensure that the flats are compliant. Now, on top of that, flat owners told us that they have some queries on certain details of the regime. So going forward, in relation to the certification process and the retrofitting process, retrofitting work, are there any other measures to help the flat owners so that they will get registered as soon as possible. And then on 061, on the transitional housing, in the opening remarks, you said that the Alto Corp project has attracted quite a number of interested parties. And now the demand for transitional housing in the urban areas may increase with the BHU regime being put in place. You will be supporting NGOs in providing transitional housing. Will you be introducing changes, say encouraging them to identify sites in the urban areas to provide TH? There are many vacant school premises now. There might be some in the new territories, but not many in the urban areas. But apart from idle school premises, can you look into whether vacant government sites, industrial buildings, can be converted en bloc and so on and so forth? So can you identify more sites in the urban areas for TH so that you can cope with the demand in the future? Okay, first on the BHU, I agree with what you said. In our website and our publicity campaign, a lot of details are given out, and there are frequently asked questions there too. But it's it's also important that we put up mock-up units for reference by flat owners. The URA has resumed certain buildings which have not yet been demolished, and we see that there are certain flats in these buildings which where one flat is divided into three SDUs, and one of the SDU may be less than 8 square meters. So we would demonstrate how works can be carried out to convert it to an area more than 8 square meters, while the other remaining 2 units can still be of a size larger than 8 square meters. So that will help with flat owners identifying how they should be doing. Now, and also we talk about whether light wells can be used as windows. So we have already identified a unit where with light wells which can be recognized. So we will also go on with our publicity work, and our colleagues have conducted 80 briefings attended by some 6,000 people. And going forward, we'll continue to conduct such briefings. We'll ask the Institute of Surveyors to help out and other professional bodies to brief flat owners on the regime and let the flat owners to raise their queries. And as to whether we should identify sites for providing transitional housing in urban areas, because in view of the BHU regime, and whether vacant school premises can be identified, we would definitely go on to do such work. And for transitional housing projects which are ongoing, maybe we will ask them to reserve, say, 5 to 10 units as buffer units. So all these will be considered. Mr. Aaron Book, thank you. First, I have to commend the current term government for performing remarkably in terms of the construction volume, like public housing, SDUs, which is a long-standing problem. I think you have performed remarkably. I have questions in relation to reply 001 and 002 on light public housing. For those projects completed, what is the occupancy rate? And then some of the LPH are cited on sites which are on short-term tenancies. Will such an arrangement pose constraints on the use of LPH? Since we are investing so much into these projects, we hope that they can be put to use for a longer time. And then 002, for the private subsidized sale flat PSSF pilot scheme. Well, you said that the 2 projects are non-starters. Tongchong 012 area was not launched because of the market conditions, so tender was not put up then. Now, It's been 2 years. It seems that the property market is reviving today. So does the government have plan to relaunch the site? Thank you.
Secretary, thank you. First of all, on the occupancy rate of the public housing, we have a total of 7 projects, including some school premises. Some of them, the occupancy rates reach 100% or even 102 or 104%. Regarding the period of occupancy, 3 months and 6 months. And we are glad to see, therefore, some members of the public have already transitioned into traditional public housing. Some have even purchased SSF. As for green form holders, members of the public only need to pay 5% for the down payment. This helps people to get on the property ladder. We hope to keep up this occupancy rate. We have received 32,000 applications and 30,000 applications for LPH. These are very well received. Applications have outnumbered our supply. We're going to use our point calculation system to allocate public housing to the most needed, especially for those who are aged or for those who have physical difficulties. Regarding PSSF, the specialized project, the Hong Kong Housing Authority has a project. Given the topography, they need more time to make preparations. As for Tung Chung Area 122, the Hong Kong Housing Society has accepted the Tung Chung 122 project, and we are still identifying other pieces of land. We are identifying pieces of land and units that match the real situation. Regarding the time of public housing, well, we use 5 years as a basic planning basis. And we are willing to discuss it with the relevant departments. As for the one in Choi Hing, it is an expansion project of a reservoir. We will take into account the local population growth. There's a project in Taiwan which was originally planned for creating public space. Can it be given to us to construct housing to help those in need? We are in liaison with the relevant policy bureaus or people in the district, and we will also have discussions when the time comes. Mr. Mark Chong, I'd like to follow up on my own question, HB 033, regarding the public housing, the BHU regime. There were 5,557 applications last week. And some families might have to be moved. In the reply given by the administration, they will provide holistic support, including 20% of transitional housing for SDU tenants. They will also be given full support to look for recognized basic housing units. I have a question. For those moving from substandard units to transitional housing, a subsidy is available. But what about for children who need to study in the same area? For these families, they don't have a moving allowance if they need to move to a private sector flat. For those moving to a government-subsidized transitional housing, they will be eligible for government subsidies, and this is like a double benefit. In contrast, for those who are not going to move into a government-subsidized housing, they don't even have any subsidies. I'd like the Secretary to consider this. As long as they will move into a recognized BHU, will subsidies be provided as well? Thank you. Regarding the units of or households of 5,570, there are a total of 110,000 units. 1/3 of the units have subpar living conditions. Some units only need to put in place a fire extinguisher or a smoke detector in order to be recognized. So it is not the case that all of these flats will have to be moved. With traditional public housing coming onto stream, the situation will improve. Therefore, we want to let owners make good use of the 4-month period, that is, first-year registration and 3 years of grace period. Regarding moving to transitional housing or light public housing, we do provide subsidies. That's exactly why the current term government provides assistance and a wide range of options. They can choose which type of housing and how much rent to pay. We provide a wide range of options for members of the public. If need be, we provide assistance to residents in need. We will discuss with them based on their circumstances to make the best choice. Any follow-up? Well, some cannot apply for traditional housing. Some children are below the age of 18 and their parents are not Hong Kongers. They are living in subdivided units at present. Because of this policy, they may need to move out. And they're eking out their own living, and I hope that the administration can provide assistance. Thank you. Secretary, I share Mr. Mark Zhong's view in designing public housing resources, and these resources are very precious indeed, and we need to accord priority to people in Hong Kong. The Labor and Welfare Bureau as well as the relevant policy bureaus might have different policies. NGOs may also be able to provide assistance to these categories of people. We'll keep a close eye on the situation in the policy portfolio of housing. Whenever we have resources, we'd like to earmark these for people in Hong Kong. When they have lived in Hong Kong for 7 years, then they will be eligible for applying for public housing. Mr. Bill Tang, the blaze in Wangford Court is indeed a great cause for concern. Legislators in the Council want to provide as much assistance as possible. The phrase Wangford Court appears a total of 298 times in the question and answer provided by the administration. I'd like to ask about 034, 076, and 087. The government spent $4 billion on the housing arrangements for a total of 1,736 units of all 7 blocks of Wangford Court. I have contacted some residents living in Wang Chi House. Mr. Warner Chuk, the Deputy Secretary, Chief Secretary for Administration, gave them a piece of good news. It is expected that in May, they will see more arrangements announced by the administration, but then they want to know what the current position of the government is. Do they still need to return to the flats after May? They are having a dilemma if there is still no decision in May. All of us are very anxious about these arrangements. The government said openly that over half of the residents are considering in situ housing or rehousing. So I'd like to know when you will make an announcement in order to be fair to families living in Wang Chi House. Thank you. I thank Mr. Bill Tang for getting in touch with us earlier. We have got in touch with over half of the affected residents. Our engagement team is reaching out to residents of Wang Chi House. They're providing even more detailed explanations. The engagement team doesn't just explain information. They answer the questions of residents of Wang Chi House. We have already started this process to the government. It would be easier for the government to make a decision when there is more consensus. The situation of Wang Chi House is very different from that of the remaining 7 blocks. It wasn't ravaged by the blaze. As Ms. Mack explained, there are different difficulties. There are also difficulties when it comes to maintenance and repair, building management, and so on. All these are complicated issues. When we have more consensus, then the government will find it easier to make a decision. In due course, we're going to announce a decision or arrangements. Thank you. Social worker, that is the one social worker per household, has reached out to the residents of Wang Chi House. I understand very well that not all residents reach out to legislators. So can you let us know when you will make the announcement? Thank you, Secretary. As I said, we are in the middle of this process. We are providing adequate information. Residents are providing information to us, including their intention. Some of them still need to discuss with their family members. Colleagues are working on this already. Thank you, Ms. Christine Fong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask about 081 and 090. 081 is about the Independent Checking Unit, ICU. In the reply of the administration, there are architects, surveyors, engineers who are professional staff. The administration said that it's difficult to give a breakdown. In the ICU of the Housing Bureau, excluding professional staff, there are only 131 supporting staff, and they are responsible for a total of 890,000 units. In other words, one staff member looks after 6,800 units. For the buildings with an age of 30 or above, some of them are subject to MBIS. For the buildings with an age of 30 or above, they make up for 65% or above. So is there sufficient manpower? Does the administration have any plan to increase the manpower in the face of the aging of buildings? Just now, Mr. Bill Tang referred to large-scale renovation works in Hong Kong, and the Housing Department needs to take care of a total of 328 housing estates. Based on title shares, the Housing Department needs to pay some maintenance or repair fees. How can you make sure that the prices quoted are fair and reasonable? Will these repairs and maintenance be regularized? Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Ms. Fong. Newly constructed public housing SSF light public housing units. All hands on deck from the Housing Bureau. A lot of manpower resources are involved. The Independent Checking Unit has 155 colleagues. They're responsible for all the housing in Hong Kong. Indeed, there are close to 900,000 units. That's why we need to be very accurate in selecting the suitable units. We need to maintain a balance between the real situation and our manpower. We need to accord priority to riskier buildings. As for manpower, the Housing Department and the Housing Bureau are working very hard to provide assistance, and I thank the Permanent Secretary and the Director of Housing for their help. Take basic housing units as an example. Registration has started. 5,000 or so applications are coming in. That's why we need to mobilize other staff members to help. When we are over this peak, we need to take a more flexible approach. We need to make manpower arrangements in a more flexible manner. And we also need to take into account the overall resource allocation in the entire government. In addition, of course, we are considering introducing more technologies to help us with document processing. Regarding maintenance of buildings, there are rental housing estates, and 10% of these units are still under us. That's why we are still paying some of the costs. At the same time, I have been in touch with my colleagues, and we'll see how we can take more part in it. When tender documents come back, probably our professional teams can provide more opinions. We may check the costs against the usual costs of repair maintenance. Are some of them excessively high? What about excessive low? We may provide more information for Owners Corporation for reference. Thank you.
Mr. Vincent Zhang, thank you, Chair. My question is reply 090. That is about SDUs. Well, I ask this question every year, but I see very encouraging figures today. So there were 30,500 registered SDUs last year, and you've been conducting inspections, and you've been identifying certain 1,000 units for further registration. So in total, there are some 80,000 registrations. So it's a challenge for SDUs to get registered in the future. So I would like to know about your broad direction going forward. How would you encourage more flat owners to get registered? And then another question on BHU. Earlier on, and also today, the Secretary said that there are some 5,000 SDUs already registered. Compared to the 100,000 SDUs, well, you are facing a challenge. So you say that SDUs, which have been registered, total 80,000. So would you be working with the rating valuation department so that these 80,000 SDUs flat owners can also get their SDUs registered under the BHU scheme or regime? Now, as to the future publicity campaign, I will ask the director to supplement. Now, rent tenancy control for SDUs. While the rising number is very encouraging, in the first year it's just 40,000, 50,000, and then this year is 30,000, and now we have some 83,000 registered. There are a total of 110,000 SDUs in Hong Kong. So we would like to keep up our work. As to how to enhance publicity, I'll defer to the director to supplement. And I think it's good that we take the initiative to make inspections. Our target is 1,000, but we have surpassed the target in the past 2 years. We did some 1,100 already. So where resources or manpower permit, we would definitely do more. Well, we proactively make inspections, and we have identified some 800 non-compliant SDUs. So this is a very good approach that we are taking. Now, as for registration of BHU, we're talking about the number is 5,557, and among them, many of them are actually registered under the Rating and Valuation Department's tenancy control regime. And we will definitely remind the registered owners to get registered under the BHU regime. Who to take the question? Mr. Siu? Thank you, Chair. On publicity, our focus going forward is that we will adopt a multi-channel approach in February and March. We posted billboards at MTR stations, and we would adopt a multi-pronged approach in our publicity work. Together, we will work with the BHU teams and the district service teams. We will organize seminars and briefings. And we will, at the same time, publicize the need for SDU flat owners to hand in the AR2 forms. We also have mobile publicity vans, and also we would send letters to flat owners as well. In the past 2 months, we have sent letters to flat owners of SDUs, and we have attached publicity pamphlets. So flat owners of SDUs will be reminded that they should apply for registration. And for those subdivided unit flat owners who have not handed in the AR2 form, we will remind them to do so. We have sent 6,000 letters in the past 2 months. As for collecting evidence, we are doing it through multiple channels. Inspection and checking is another good approach that we are undertaking. We adopted a targeted approach to identify non-compliant cases. We conduct inspections. We get in touch with different SDU tenants. We will continue with our work. And where resources permit, we will do more. Mr. Tam Chan Kwok. Thank you, Chair. Follow up on reply 078, a question raised by myself. The government said that in the next 5 years, well, there will be some 70,000 PRH units in the new territories, which means that there will be a population intake of over 100,000. In our reply, in our question, I said that we should make sure that the transport infrastructure and community facilities should be in place before the population intake. And I know that the NMCO, Northern Metropolis Coordination Office, will do the work. Will the housing department work together with this office and say build some shopping plazas in the estates? And how would you be providing community facilities in the estate so that the residents can enjoy these facilities? Now, as we all know, the Northern Metropolis is an important development area. There will be the university town and so on and so forth. So whether we're talking about the construction of PRH and SSF, we would definitely speed up the work. In fact, in Kutong and Fanling North, some of the construction projects are nearing completion. So in housing planning today, we would have comprehensive planning at an early stage, incorporating, say, the land resumption, design of road networks, and so on. Within my office, I have a task force which will monitor the progress of works and so on. Road networks are very important. Especially nowadays, we are using MIC. Well, transport and logistics facilities are very important, and they are key to whether we can complete the projects on time. So we attach a lot of importance to road networks construction. And also community facilities are also important. We attach importance to the concept or notion of a 15-minute living circle, which will provide transport facilities and shopping facilities and so on. And well, we earlier on, a few years ago, we have issued the well-being design guidelines. And the guidelines incorporate the design of which are age-friendly, and we bear in mind the facilities to put in place to enhance the sense of well-being of the residents, and we should build in a green and good living environment for them. Mr. Chan Pok-chi, follow up on HB 002. Going by the experience of these past 2 months, would you make an assessment of the compliance costs? Your estimate of the operation or management cost is 4.8 million. Is that amount enough? Now we're talking about a 48-month transition period. Early on, the government said after the 18-month transition period, you will enforce the law with reasonable, compassionate, and orderly manner. So what is your estimate of the cost of law enforcement and also manpower costs? Would you be earmarking some amounts every year so that you can take forward your work smoothly? I believe that you are talking about the BHE registration system. We have 1 year of registration and 12-month registration period and 16-month grace period. So we have different focuses on different periods. The initial stage, publicity is a key focus. We should raise awareness among the SDU flat owners. They should get registered and then do the necessary work in the 36-month grace period. Later on, there will be recognition applications. Then the professional team has to be involved. So we would be deploying the resources for that, and then we would proceed with the law enforcement against those who are not registering with us and letting subpar SDU still. So we will do the law enforcement in an orderly manner. We know that a large number of units are involved, so we would be treading carefully, step by step. Any follow-up? Mr. Stanley, thank you. Follow-up on reply. HB 069 and 071, and that is also about the dedicate the implementation of the BHU regime. My question is on publicity. Recently, we have received some complaints. Some flat owners are making use of the BHU regime to force the tenants out of their flats. We know that there is a 12-month registration period and 36-month grace period. There is indeed sufficient time for the flat owners to deal with their non-compliant SDUs. But then still, some flat owners are evicting their tenants. And we know that the tenants are protected by law in terms of tenancy, but some flat owners are still exploiting the regime. So can the dedicated team do more to prevent the flat owners in doing that? And then a question about 071 about the mandatory building inspection scheme, mandatory windows inspection scheme. We know that there is an independent checking unit undertaking the relevant work. In the recent past, well, we only saw several dozens of inspections of buildings. There are more cases in relation to inspection of windows, but then the percentage or the number of repair orders is not on the high side. So how do you assess your performance? Since the buildings department is responsible for the work, why is the need for an independent checking unit under the Housing Bureau to do the work?
Thank you. Let me take the first two questions first. Regarding the questions on MPIS and MWIS, such as the ratio, the percentage, I will ask Ms. Haroon to take the question. I agree with Mr. Stanley Ng. Some SDU tenants, as we have observed, we need to let them know that their rights are protected. We have the district service teams, and we have held a total of 60 or so briefing sessions. Some of these covered tenants. I also met with some tenants. We want to help them understand the relevant situation through different avenues. Where in doubt, just reach out to the 6 DSTs. There are methods of contact online. There are their names, telephone numbers, and so on online. You can reach out to them if need be. Regarding the ICU Independent Checking Unit, the background is this. The Housing Authority has built many housing units, or SSF units. Some units have been sold by the Buildings Department. Owing to division of work, some units were built by the Housing Department, which is more familiar with the building plans, structure, and so on. That's why some of these units are under the remit of the ICU. The Buildings Department has handed over the management of these units over to the ICU. This is the design of the system. Regarding the MPIS as well as the MWIS, we follow the usual percentage of the building department. Owing to the time limit, Ms. Haroon, please be succinct. From 2012 up till now, the ICU has issued over 14,000 notices. Over 97% of these notices have been complied with. Regarding the MWIS, over 230,000 notices have been issued. Over 95% of these notices have been complied with. We have reminded owners to undertake examinations, and this has been effective. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask about the questions that I asked. HB 045. In the reply given by the administration, there are some figures. They are, on the one hand, encouraging, but on the other hand, they are worrisome. After we have the BHU ordinance in 2024 to 25, a total of 10,000 inquiries. In 2025 to 26, a total of 16,000 inquiries, up by 60%. As for visits to SDUs in 2024 to 25, 1,640, and in 2025 to 26, 7,850. I'd like to write on Mr. Scott Lang's question. There are KPIs in relation to DSTs. They have indeed done a lot. I have to commend their efforts. Secretary said that In her reply to Mr. Ronald Chan's question, she is confident, but please allow me to express my concern. With the current manpower and with the peak on the horizon, have you considered increasing manpower for the team? I understand there are volunteers, but they may not be able to handle inquiries. In concrete terms, in addition to tenants, owners have a lot of questions as well. Do you have any follow-up about the figures? How many questions were asked by tenants and how many were asked by unit owners? I'd like to have some statistics from the administration. Looking forward, is it possible to increase more resources in the face of the peak? Thank you. Secretary, thank you. Indeed, we have already increased resources for the DSTs. With the implementation of the BHU regime, we are expecting some issues coming up. We have a dedicated group on BHUs. They have a hotline and they are already taking some inquiries. Some common FAQs have been put online. I'd like to ask Ms. Winnie Wong, Deputy Secretary for Housing, to give you more information. Thank you. In 2024-25 and in 2025 and 26, the 6 DSTs were responsible for promoting tenancy control. The BHU ordinance came into effect on the 1st of March. Since then, the DSTs have been helping us to work on the promotion of the BHU. Regarding the contracts of these 6 DSTs, they will run until the end of 2027. By then, we will take into account the workload and we will also see if we need to increase resources for the 6 DSTs. We are going to conduct a review when the time comes. Thank you. Any follow-up, Mr. Lam? Simply put, the contract of the DSTs will run until 2027, but the registration period will last for a total of 12 months. It's past a few months. The figures are very encouraging, but let's not just take a look at the contract period. Whenever you need provisions for more manpower, I will be the first to give you support. Well, thank you, Mr. Lam. Thank you. Mr. Dennis Lam, thank you. I'd like to follow up on my questions. HB 065, 066, and 067. These are my questions. The first question, 067, the Housing Bureau has an independent checking unit, ICU. There are 3 senior maintenance surveyors and there is 1 senior maintenance surveyor and 3 maintenance surveyors. As I heard from the evidential hearing of the Independence Committee, there's a lack of effective standards. So I'd like to know more about the ICU. After conducting an examination, will the ICU report to its higher-ups? In the future, will the ICU formulate a set of guidelines when the chief executive said that we need to conduct reform? We need a comprehensive set of standards to handle repairs. Regarding HB 066, we need to help young people to get on the property ladder. The starter home projects for Hong Kong people are very well received among the young in Hong Kong. Will the government roll out even more projects in order to benefit more young people in Hong Kong? The last question is about 065. I'd like to ask about upskilling licensees. And I'd also like to ask about the contents under this scheme. Will the participants be checked? Will they undergo assessments? What is the passing rate? Thank you. Secretary, I will take the first 2 questions. And I will also ask my colleague Deputy Secretary to take the question on the EAA. The blaze in Wangford Court is disheartening. In the recent sessions of the evidential hearing, we can see the registered fire service installation contractor, professionals, contractors. Well, we can see substandard practices of these contractors. We have come across subpar contractors. There are issues with the projects. There are also projects that require the intervention of our colleagues. From the evidential hearing on Wangford Court, if there are such minor works, indeed, colleagues need to be extra vigilant. When they visit the construction site, they need to be on high alert in the handling of some complaints. How can we keep our eyes peeled so that we can identify non-compliances as soon as possible? Together with the Deputy Secretary, Permanent Secretary, and the head of the ICU, we will redouble our efforts. For instance, we have independent computer system to conduct surprise checks. Our colleagues will also have information from the computer system to decide which block to check. Well, excuse me, please allow me to answer the other two questions. Regarding the starter home projects for young people, there are a couple of projects at present. Say for e-residences by the URA, there are some units yet to be sold in Phase 3. When will they be launched in the market? Regarding the project in Taihang, there are over 2,000 units under the SSF. There are also starter home projects. Regarding the EAA, that is the Estate Agents Authority, I'm going to ask my colleague, Deputy Secretary, to give you more information. Thank you. This is about an upskilling course. There are four main subjects. 1. Industry knowledge, market information. 2. Communication skills. 3. Business knowledge. And 4. Personal upskilling or personal achievement. There's a wide range of different courses. Some participants only take part in a talk, whereas some take part in online courses. For the latter, that is for online courses, participants need to pass an assessment in order to complete the training course. It all depends on the individual arrangements of different courses. Thank you. Mr. Chen Hopfeng, I'd like to follow up on HB 055. I'd like to ask the Secretary about the number of private residential units. In 2025 Long-Term Housing Strategy Report, the number of private residential units will stand at 12,600 units according to the LTHS. However, in your reply, HB 055, the number of private residential units will total 17,000. However, in paragraph 215 of the budget speech, in the coming 5 years, the number of private residential units will total 22,000. So I'd like to ask about the real figure when it comes to the number of private residential units. I can see significant differences. There's a difference of 10,000 units between the long-term housing strategy and the budget speech. Is it because of the significant demand for residential units? Or is it the fact that the LTHS isn't moving with the times? What are the reasons for the differences in the figures? I'd also like to follow up on HB 020. is about cash allowance trial scheme. Each family received $52,400 per year. Has the administration conducted any studies after the disbursement of the subsidies? Is there any impact on the private housing market? What we're worried is that when you disperse subsidies, it is actually the owners that would benefit. The owners might as well increase the rents. Then you aren't really helping members of the public. Have you assessed the cost effectiveness of the rental allowances? Can you share with us? If no, will you consider conducting an assessment before next time? My next question is in relation to TPS. I didn't see any projections on the TPS. It was mentioned in the policy address, but no money whatsoever has been earmarked for the TPS as mentioned in the budget speech. I'd like to ask about the progress.
Let me take the last two questions first, and then figures related to the private property market, I'll defer to the Deputy Secretary, Ms. Zhang, to address. About rental allowance. Mr. Chan, you are right. That the adjustment in rental is affected by a number of factors. When we launched the cash allowance trial scheme, rent allowance, because that was against the background of insufficient land supply, and there was a pressing need for housing among the grassroots level. So the rental allowance is there to ease the burden. And since it's a rental allowance, ultimately it would become rent to be paid to the landlord. So in my opening address, I said that because of the transitional housing projects, $10.6 billion can be saved. And this goes to the pocket of the tenants. So we should pay attention to this when we launch similar projects or allowances in the future. We can learn from our experience. About the TPS scheme, we would utilize existing resources within this year. We would conduct studies. You are familiar with the TPS projects. There are a number of factors to be taken on board. We have to plan carefully. So, Deputy Secretary, please be brief. Thank you. Mr. Chan referred to three notions or concepts, and they belong to different periods. Now, for the long-term housing strategy, we're talking about a 10-year period, and the calculation basis is that in the next 10 years, there will be 42,000 units. And since 2018, the public-private sector ratio is 7:3. So 42,000 units among this amount. So there will be 12,600 private flats. And then there is another concept of average construction volume, and that is based on the estimate on the size of the spade-ready sites. So that's why we come up with the 17,000 figures. And then another concept is the supply volume. Whether the units have been completed or not, it is launched. The sites, the relevant sites, are sold. Or disposed. So we estimate the figure to be 104,000 in the next 10 years. Follow-up on 002 refers to the registration of SDUs. You talk about 4,000 to 5,000 SDUs involved, and the Secretary said that not all of the tenants of these SDUs have to be relocated. Some of them may need just minor alterations in order to be recognized. Now, I'm worried that if say over 10,000 registration applications are coming in the short space of 1 to 2 months, the tenants of these units have to be relocated. And if they can't identify suitable flats, they may be forced to rent subdivided units in industrial buildings. This is something that we don't want to see. What is your take of the situation? is there any room to further increase the number of transitional housing units? Can you arrange for flat owners to put forth their applications during different periods, so they come in batch by batch, to avoid the situation whereby a number of SDU tenants have to be moving out of their units? And then S0221 directorate posts plus 18 civil servants, they have to undertake registration, administration, recognition, enforcement, and prosecution. Is the team big enough? The secretary said that right now they're just working on publicity and registration, and the accreditation or the certification process is yet to begin. I don't want that to take a long time. Would there be sort of performance pledge in terms of the period that you would need to endorse or to get the SEU certified? Secretary, well, I thank many members for their concern on the manpower of the HB. We have to take care of so many SDUs. The workload is voluminous, and that's why we come up with a 4-year proposal. The market then, or the SDU flat owners, can get registered and recognized in an orderly manner. Now, the registration period lasts 1 year, and we also have the early bird arrangement. Say in the first half of the year or in the first 6 months, you hand in the application. There will be a total waiver of the certification fee. So hoping that the flat owners will not wait till the 11th hour to apply. I hope that they can apply for registration as early as possible, and then following that, there will be a 3-year grace period. Mr. Stanley agreed that there should be sufficient time for flat owners to ratify their non-compliances in an orderly manner. For tenants in need, our district service teams will identify suitable accommodation for them. That's why we need to set up district service teams. In terms of manpower, given our limited manpower, we will still do the best planning job. And in terms of enforcement, we will first work on the high-risk cases first. We will do our very best, even though our resources or manpower are limited. I would like to follow up on HB 36, 81, and 83. Now, I would like to clarify certain figures. On page 5, or rather page 2, notice of number of statutory notices issued, number of statutory notices complied with. There is a big difference between the two figures. In 2021, number of notices issued 14, notices complied with 1,318, and thereafter the figures are only in 2 digits. How come that there is this big difference? And in reply 83, there is a higher percentage of appeals being or the notices to quit being cancelled. And then a question on manpower. There are only 18 people responsible for inspecting the windows and the buildings. 18 people dealing with so many units. It's not fair to the Bureau. It's grossly disproportionate. Secretary, well, let me first answer the question relating to the appeal panel, and I thank the member again for the fact that we are very short-handed. if needed, we would try to strive for more resources. For now, we'll try to cope as much as we can. Now, for the appeal panel, because the base figures are not very large, for appeal cases, appeal panel will look at the circumstances of each individual case before taking on the cases. Well, the details have to be furnished by the appellant. Maybe we're talking about a household where there is a deceased and the deceased parent, and then the siblings have to, the children have to lodge an appeal and so on. And the composition of the appeal panel has been reconstituted recently. We've included more from the legal sector, social welfare sector as members. We want to take an approach which is reasonable and compassionate as well. Can I defer to Ms. Harun to talk about the number? Let's look at the numbers in the table in 036. Well, the figures in the same year are different because the year in which the notices are issued may differ from the year in which the notices are complied with. We hope that the flat owners will not wait for notices to be issued before they get their windows or buildings inspected. After we issue the notices, many landlords are willing to cooperate with us and get the buildings or windows inspected. Maybe the flat owners in some buildings have to discuss among themselves on how to take forward the works, and if needed, they can also apply for extension of period from us. And only in very exceptional case, well, only the very special cases will refer them to the Buildings Department for prosecution. Ms. Elaine Chick, I would like to follow up on the question on PSSF. The member raised about a question about the site in Tongchong. I'm concerned about the site in Chai Wan. The site in Tongchong has been handed over to the Housing Society for building SSFs. And Chairman Road, Chai Wan site, I'm concerned about that. Understand that the aim of the PSSF is such that the SSFs can become more diversified. Well, the tender was unsuccessful. Have you reviewed why that is the situation? How come that market players are not attracted? Would you be improving your own conditions to make the tender more attractive? Or would you consider changing the use of the site for other residential purposes? Would you continue with PSSF at the Chai Wan site? And then HB 032 on the engagement teams in Wang Fat Court. You are recruiting people from different departments. How many people have you recruited and from which departments? Will your exercise affect the operations of these departments? Can you give more details? Another question, 011, is about starter homes. The secretary said that the URA is considering selling the unsold flats in e-residence. And you talk about other starter projects such as Yao Kam Tower and also Tai Hang West. How come that there are units unsold in E-Residence 3? Are these units not attractive enough? How can you prevent the situation that the units will not be attractive for the buyers?
Thank you. I'd like to talk about the PSSF regarding the project on Changmen Road in Wan Chai. These projects are subject to market sentiments. In the recent year, in the property market, we have seen consolidation and property prices are on a steady increase. For the site on Changmen Road, the location is quite good. It's on Hong Kong Island and is close to an MTR station. There's a slope. It's not a very large area, and there are a lot of different factors affecting us about choosing a site. How can we enhance the appeal of these sites? We'll keep a close watch on the situation as well as the market trends. Regarding the future of the PSSF, we'll continue to monitor it. We'll keep a close eye on the piece of land on Changmen Road. At the same time, we're also identifying other sites. Probably there are sites with a different size or with a different circumstance. Regarding the engagement team, it has over 100 people. Not just the Housing Bureau. Other bureaus are involved. The HYAB, the Labor and Welfare Bureau, the Security Bureau, the Development Bureau, all these have been involved in post-disaster relief in relation to the blaze in Wangford Court. Some colleagues have been seconded to the volunteer teams. Some are attached to the offices in Home and Tin. Some facilities and equipment have been provided, and we are explaining the situation to residents. I can definitely see the very patient explanations. Some engagement team members said that they want to help the affected residents to move into a flat as soon as possible. Regarding the starter homes for Hong Kong residents by the Urban Renewal Authority, when it was first launched, market sentiments and the general market situation were at play. The interest rates were in a state of flux. Whenever there are changes in the interest rate, there are impacts on the contributions of mortgage as well as the market sentiment when it comes to buying a flat. I believe the Urban Renewal Authority will be proactive in tackling this issue. Mr. Hong Kam In, I'd like to ask about two questions, HB 011 and 057. Both of them concern the starter homes for Hong Kong residents. They are aimed at helping members of the public whose income or asset is above the requirements of the HA. If their income or assets are 2 times more than the public rental housing requirements, then they will have to pay double rents. Some of them are considering changing from a full-time position to a part-time one in order to avoid paying double rents. Some are considering choosing starter homes for Hong Kong residents or GSH. My question is this: will the administration considering providing incentives to help members of the public to choose GSH or starter homes? Or will there be any tax concessions in relation to property loans. Secretary, thank you, Mr. Hong. We want to have a system which provides a wide array of options for people in different income brackets to get on the property ladder. The Housing Bureau has been making efforts and adjustments in this regard. We have public housing, we have private housing, and we also have subsidized sales flats. In addition, we have the starter homes for Hong Kong residents as well. They form the complete housing ladder. That is to help people in different income brackets to move up the housing ladder. Public rental housing is precious resources, allowing members of the public to live and work in contentment. Afterwards, they can move up further on the property ladder. There was once a lack of SSF, so the members of the public or some members of the public couldn't get on the property ladder. In the coming 5 years, there will be about 12,000 SSF units. We want to have a stable supply of SSF units so that for those who can move up the property ladder, they can do so. We are also giving opportunities to young home buyers. They can work hard and then they can save up for their own properties. In the future, we will redouble our efforts in this regard. Regarding the down payment in GSH, the down payment varies between 5% and 10%. Regarding the HA, there is also a scheme on mortgage guarantee. Loans can be taken out under this scheme. In other words, we have different strategies to help families which have different needs. Thank you, Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you. I'd like to ask about HB 017 is asked by Mr. Chen Hofeng. The administration has provided a clear answer. The administration has given an account of the details when it comes to different housing types. Well, according to the main reply, if the works can match the schedule, there won't be any issues. However, in the interim, will the administration make sure that they can follow the schedule? There are 4 public housing estates in Yuen Long South. As many as 30,000 people will move in. I'm concerned about the transport infrastructure. Will there be sufficient transport infrastructure? The administration has detailed the public rental housing which will come on stream. The key is transport infrastructure. I'd like to ask about your liaison with other policy bureaus. You need to know well the thoughts of the residents. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Holden Chow. When there has been a marked improvement in the Council, indeed, I've become even more confident. There were many arguments bickering in the Council, so we might not be able to catch up with the schedule. That said, in the coming 5 or 10 years, the Development Bureau and the Transport Bureau can make preparations and approve financial provisions. All of us have very good collaboration regarding the road transport network. We need the help of the Transport and Logistics Bureau. And we have close collaboration with the Geotechnical Office. Thank you, Mr. Holden Chow, for your kind reminders. We'll keep talks with the relevant policy bureaus. I'm confident about the macro environment, but when it comes to minor details, we welcome members' questions and views so that we can get them done as soon as possible. Any follow-up? No, thank you. A total of 20 members have spoken. That is the end of this session. Just to remind you, on the 14th of April tomorrow, we are going to start at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Secretariat. Thank you.